Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
And we're already on episode 10 of the season.
The season's flying by.
Our seasons are getting longer and longer.
Yes.
I feel like they used to be like for the fall, and now we're like, well, but we have to cover the spring, but we also have to cover the summer. So do we have a season anymore? I don't really know. But here we are. It's good to see you, Allie.
It's good to see you, my friend.
We're going to get into it. We have a really fun episode because we get to talk about international, which always excites me. We're going to kick it off with some WSL because we had a lot of wild games this weekend. Really fun.
WSL was absolutely madness. Just really quickly.
Off.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the fact that like you got Man City beat Reading 3-0, but 2 were own goals.
Oh, that was so painful to watch.
You know, you had the controversial penalty against Liverpool. Wasn't it against Hansen in the dying moments?
It was. I was watching it. It was a penalty, but that's okay.
No, I'm just saying what people are saying because of Villa.
Can we find a penalty that's ever non-controversial, no matter how clear it is?
Unless you hack a player down, it's like...
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then Arsenal absolutely flying against Leicester. So it was a great weekend in the WSL.
And the 2 games you didn't mention, United, Chelsea, West Ham, Brighton, we're going to chat about. But before we get into those, I'm actually going to throw a curveball because we weren't planning on talking about this, Allie. But now that we're talking about all of the scores, let's do a brief moment on the fact that this Tottenham-Everton game got postponed an hour before kickoff.
It is painful, and I feel like this call could have been made so much earlier. Like, it was absolutely bucketing it down all weekend in London. You think they would have taken the time, especially when you've got travelling. I mean, the team would have travelled down the night before, which is annoying enough, but you've got fans that will have got up at the crack of dawn to get down for this 2 o'clock kickoff. I know as someone who travels a similar distance that Everton fans do, I'm up at like 5 to try and get. And can you imagine? Like I was seeing people saying, I've literally got out at Leighton Tube, which is where Tottenham play, and it's now cancelled. And now what do I do?
It's incredibly frustrating. That has happened to me as a fan here, going to Red Bull Arena, and I was almost there, and it got cancelled. And I was like, okay, well, there's 3 hours on the train that I won't get back. But I want to bring this up because I feel like a broken record, but I guess we haven't talked about this on the pod in a while. This kind of stuff, Izzy Christensen tweeted about this and basically said, you want to be a professional league, you want to be called professional, you want to be treated like that, but this kind of stuff isn't professional. That's not verbatim, but that was the gist of what she was saying. And I could not agree more. This is incredibly frustrating to me as a fan, as somebody who discusses women's soccer. It's so multi-pronged. And I had a great conversation with somebody on Twitter who was basically like, this happens in the men's game. And it's like, yes, there's rain delays or cancellations in the men's game, but that's not really the point. The point is a couple things. Number one, this specific decision, if we're getting into specifics, could have been made earlier. There wasn't lightning, there wasn't thunder, there wasn't like a sudden strike in the middle of the field. Number two, it's the frequency with which this happens in this league. And I don't want to go on a tangent, but you can only draw the direct line to investments. It's investment in better upkeep of the pitch, better facilities, and treatment. And that's really what it comes down to. So it was disappointing, but nonetheless, we had a fantastic weekend of football.
Yes.
Let's get into it. The main game that we're going to highlight today is the Manchester United versus Chelsea game. This was in prime time, a 3-1 victory for Chelsea at Manchester United. This was really the first big test of the season for United, unbeaten so far, and had kept a clean sheet this entire league so far. Both of these teams are chasing Arsenal anyways, so let's break it down because I think this was a much anticipated game across the board for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a game that even neutrals were like chomping at the bit for because they were like so excited to see, because Man United have been flying this season, absolutely beyond even I think their expectations, and it was great to see like them come up against like a real like solid, consistently top 3 team to see how they would fare.
And a top 3 team that frankly hasn't been showing up well in league games, which is what made this so much more exciting, where it did really look like Chelsea's a little wavering, United is on a high, maybe United's going to take this. That is not what happened. So let's talk United first. We're going to break this down by team. Manchester United, conceded 2 goals to start the game, put one in, looked like it was going to be 2, it was 2-1, looked like maybe they had a chance, and then conceded again, and that was kind of it. So Allie, for you, in watching this game at the airport bar with your beer, talking to the bartender, what were you seeing from United, good and bad? Let's start with good.
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to talk in cliches, but I will say it was a game of 2 halves, because first half, Man United were great. Like, they didn't quite have as many chances going forward, but they were controlling Chelsea. They were nullifying them. Defensively, they were great. They were putting a stop to Kerr. They were putting a stop to Harder, which is what their game plan would have been, because those are your 2 scoring threats with Kirby out currently unwell. So those are the 2 you're going to be focusing on. And they did brilliantly. Mary Earps made some insane saves to keep Man United in. And you're like, yeah, this is brilliant. Like, they may get a point. They may even nick it. Like, if they can keep it 0-0 and get a 1-0 win, then that's grinding out a result, which it may not be pretty, but that puts them firmly in title contention and puts a nice gap between them and Chelsea. So they were doing fantastically. And then second half, it went to bits. And I don't know if they got overawed. I don't know if I think Chelsea may have changed their game plan and realised what Man United were doing and managed to work out a system that allowed Kerr to break free and Harder to break free on the wings. But it just went to pieces for them in the second half.
Yeah, United had the majority of possession in the first half, and even despite the second half, was able to maintain the majority of possession throughout this game. They had more passes completed, all of that. For me, so I'll say that as a positive for United, and I always have to just shout out that I think that Hayley Ladd is a massive reason for that. Hayley Ladd is such a key piece of connecting the lines between the back line and the forward line, because Tooney, she's really, like the playmaker, but on the offensive portion. Katie Zellum's more box to box, and Hayley Ladd is that connector piece, and she really maintains that possession. And I actually think that's a great way to kind of show how United faltered. 2 out of 3 of their goals, United conceded because of poor clearances, poor handling in the back line. So even that first goal, we can tie it back to Hayley Ladd even. What happened really was that Millie Turner was looking to basically skip lines, play a ball up to Russo, and it got completely just nicked in the middle of the field, easy finish, right? So that important piece of Hayley Ladd got skipped and they conceded. And then again, it happened. And so for me, it's really not what United did wrong other than that one little piece.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they were let down by their backline, specifically Thoris Dottier and Millie Turner. Both of them, it was poor clearances, it was poor passing. This is what I mean about overawed. I think Thoris Dottier is still recovering from the Euros.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, she had one of the poorest Euros. Yeah, mentally, she had a really poor Euros. Really poor Euros.
The type of Euros where she had to be pulled off the field because of all of the goals that they were conceding. Yes.
Exactly. So mentally, I don't think she's back from that. She's had some moments of brilliance against bottom half mid-table teams, but going up against a Chelsea, there was that mental block, I think, that just couldn't be broken down, and it was terrible passing. Let's be honest, like, you couldn't even see where she was aiming for, and it got intercepted. It just went straight to, especially the Cuthbert goal.
Yeah, it was hard to see them beat themselves, because that's what happened. They really did. They gave up 2 balls in the middle of the field in dangerous areas. And for a team like Chelsea, they're going to capitalize. Before we move on to Chelsea, let's talk about that beautiful goal by Alessia Russo, because it wasn't all bad. Obviously, for United, there was a lot of possession. There was a lot of good that we've seen throughout the entire season that they carried into this game. And Alessia Russo scored a beauty of a goal that was also a beautiful ball in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the teamwork again between her, Tooney, and that whole play. It's great to see Russo back because she's been out injured, and to see her scoring. And it was a great moment for them to pick themselves up, because they obviously went 2-0 down very quickly, and then to suddenly get that goal back. They've still got time, they're still in it, they can still get something out of it, and it was just what Russo does well.
I could not agree more. And it was a beautiful ball in from Tooney. The Tooney Russo connection, what they both do well, and United really should not. I know this might have been a hard loss for United's fans, but there was so much good in this game. I hope they don't hang their heads.
The only thing I would say to, and if Mark Skinner, because we know Mark Skinner's listening and takes our tactics very seriously, but if I was him and I was listening, I would take a look at your midfield and I would not start Zellum next game.
We know how you feel about Katie Zellum. Who would you start instead of Katie Zellum?
I mean, I would build my midfield around Ladd and then just go from there with Galton and things like that. It's just, for me, I think Zellum is getting minutes because she's really good at set pieces. She is. She's fantastic at set pieces, but she is too slow. She is too slow moving that ball in that midfield.
Yeah.
And that was what they were getting caught out on as well.
I think she's getting minutes because they just don't have a deep enough bench. That's kind of the question of like who starts instead of her, and maybe that's a big off-season move or in-season move that they can frankly make, but I really do think that that's why she's getting minutes. But to stay on United, they can't hang their heads also because their next matchup is none other than Arsenal. So let's stay in this game and let's chat Chelsea, because Chelsea has been wavering, and I say wavering, it's wavering for Chelsea, okay?
It's still a pretty good start to the season.
It's still a good start, but they have one loss, and they just haven't looked quite like Chelsea, missing Emma Hayes. So there's a little bit there, but I think we started to see that momentum pick up. So for you, where did Chelsea win this game?
Midfield. The midfield is where Chelsea won and lost the game. Specifically, Niamh Charles and Sophie Ingle. Those two players had a phenomenal game. And Brighton, to be fair, you know. And I mean, I can't say too bad about Cuff, but she did lose the ball to allow for the Russo goal, but then made up for it. But I do think specifically Charles and Ingle were reading that game so well. We talk about sixes. They were that beautiful piece between the back line with Buchanan, Eriksson and Bright, and getting the ball forward for the three up front, which was James Kerr and Harder. So for me, Sophie Ingle again was like a doubt because they thought she was going to transfer out this window and stuff like that, and she's come back in.
We thought she should transfer out. We were like, go get those minutes.
Yeah, but she's cementing her place and is going to make it even more difficult for the Chelsea team and Emma Hayes specifically about who to play in the midfield, because right now she is having... It's like the Beth Mead revenge tour, but for Sophie Ingle. She is proving why she deserves her starting spot.
I love that you called those names out because I feel like those are the consistent and also underspoken names on Chelsea's team because it's so full of incredible talent. But in terms of consistency, their midfield is one of the most consistent that we've really seen. Absolutely. Let's quickly touch on Chelsea's goals because, as we mentioned, two of them capitalizing off of United and one of them was not. So first goal, Sam Kerr really capitalizing there. I mean, it's just classic Sam Kerr. That actually wasn't the most classic Sam Kerr goal that we saw in the game.
It wasn't, to be fair. It really wasn't. But it was an absolute beauty. And again, it was Man United making their own undoing because it wasn't the greatest clearance from Millie Turner. It landed at Sam Kerr's feet. And then the Man United defence got in the way of Mary Earps. So, like, completely blocked her vision. And Sam Kerr had a great, like, straight through the bottom left-hand corner while Mary was still in the right-hand corner. But it was an absolute glorious goal. Like, power shot, bottom left-hand corner.
Let's talk about Sam Kerr's assist now. Because Sam Kerr, this was the classic Sam Kerr moment. Her timing was impeccable. The ball was timed impeccably. She's streaking down the left sideline, crosses that in, perfect cross, and Lauren James buries it and then kisses the badge, Chelsea's badge on the Manchester United field in front of the fans who she used to play for, in front of Casey Stoney, who was at the game. How do you feel about that?
It's one of those things. Like, I would never dampen a player's like celebration. I think they have the right to celebrate how they should. However, I do think that there is tact, and I've seen it where players who used to play for West Ham have scored against us, and they do a little celebration. They celebrate with their teammates, and then they get on with it. That one felt like Lauren James was proving a point.
I think so too. It felt like, look where I am now.
Yeah,
you didn't feel like you needed me.
But it was a hell of a goal.
Oh, like, yeah. It was a great finish.
Sam Kerr doing Sam Kerr things. She managed to draw the defence to completely, like, overwhelm her and thing her. cheeky little pass to Lauren James. And again, it's another powerful strike that got absolutely buried. I don't think even Earps could have got a hand to it.
It was absolutely clinical. It's what you practice in training. You take the ball to the end line, you cross it back and away to the top of the box. Lauren James is coming in full force, buries it far corner. It was clinical by Chelsea, and a deserved win, I have to say. We're going to move from United Chelsea into the surprise of the century. This is West Ham versus Brighton at West Ham, and Brighton, who just lost their coach, takes it 5-4 over West Ham.
Madness. This game was utter madness.
Just like what happened, Allie? I was saying to you, I had 3 games on at once. I had 1 on the TV and I had 2 on the computer, and because they were all great games. And I was like, I don't think I need to watch the West Ham game because Brighton just lost their coach. West Ham's playing well. I think this will be fine. And then all of the games ended and I checked the scoreline and I was like, oh my God, what did I do?
I remember messaging you when it got down to like 5-2. I was like, I'm not talking about this game. You cannot make me talk about this game.
I mean, I don't even have a question other than what happened. Let's talk about Brighton first, really quickly, because we talked about Brighton on our last episode because obviously Hope Powell just left, and to use our editor Mike's words, because I think that they're fantastic, it seems like Brighton are really coasting on the fact that only one team gets relegated, and the future really wasn't looking bright. And I think that this surprised the soccer world. So what went so right here for Brighton?
Do you know what? I think it didn't in the fact that in this league we have a tendency, and it happens like 9 times out of 10, is they get rid of a coach and then they get that new bounce. Even if it's just for a temporary coach, they get this new bounce and then they come back fighting. And I don't know if it's
that's not specific to this league. That is across the board because players are trying to prove themselves.
Exactly. They're trying to prove themselves. So that is what Brighton was doing. They went down really quickly. Lisa Evans scored a goal within 3 minutes, which seems to be West Ham's MO, is we go super quick.
Yeah, we were talking about this again the other week. It starts really high and then it plummets.
And then they can't maintain it. And so that's what happened. And then Danielle Carter, doing Danielle Carter things, manages to get them level. And I think that gave, because the way she scored that first goal, she completely carved up our defence and slotted it past our quite young, inexperienced keeper. And that gave Brighton the way. That's allowed them to see how they could, and they were just the better team. Like, I can't argue, they were just on fire. They were communicating for the first time that I've seen them this season in a way that was brilliant. Well, Megan Walsh was commanding her defenders really well, and then they were just absolutely phenomenal.
I agree. I think this is a big moment for both teams. This is and specifically this is a big moment for West Ham because it has been a good season so far, but this pattern that has developed is not one that is sustainable. And I think we just saw it play out here in this game about how unsustainable it is. And they're taking on Leicester City next. And that is an opponent that West Ham could very easily underestimate, come in a little flat, think they'll get the big win, and then suddenly be looking back at the scorelines and have dropped 2 in a row, Leicester and Brighton. So this, I think, is a pivotal moment for West Ham. And this was a pivotal moment for Brighton because to get that win with that new coach right off the bat, it really does set them on a good trajectory moving forward.
Absolutely. And I have to say shout out to Georgia Fox, who was absolutely phenomenal in that game, got her the 5th goal and was just tearing up the field, and she's someone to watch because she's filling in that Laetitia role that they were missing since her going to Man United. And yeah, it was just absolutely astounding. I do want to shout out though that West Ham at a 5-2 defeat almost pulled it back to a draw by scoring 2 goals in 3 minutes in like the 80th minutes, with Lisa Evans getting the assist and Viv Asai getting both goals.
Yeah.
Like, it's insanity, this game.
You're right. It totally. And that's just like, you know, if West Ham's able to do that, if only they hadn't dug themselves a hole, right?
Exactly. But it was nice to see such an exciting game.
Yeah, it really was. We're seeing more and more, we talk about this a lot, we're seeing more and more competitive games between teams at every end of the table, bottom, middle, top, and that just really bodes well for the competitiveness of this league developing. We're going to stay in the WSL for our final quick moment. We just want to do a moment commenting on the whole Hannah Hampton situation because last week when we recorded the episode on Monday, the only news that had dropped was that of The Guardian saying that there were reports from both the head coach of Aston Villa and from Serena Wagman that Hannah Hampton was having, quote, attitude problems. So that is what we were going off of. We got a lot of responses saying like that was not the whole story. We know we recorded it on Monday and released it on Wednesday, and a lot happened in between. Well, actually, technically, we released it Tuesday night for Wednesday, but a lot happened in between. But I don't know, Allie, I think that there's a lot to say about this. And my personal opinion, and we said this on the last episode, is first and foremost, we want Hannah Hampton to get whatever help she needs in whatever way. Medical, physical, emotional, whatever it is, that is our first and foremost. It's the first thing we said last episode. That's the first thing we're going to say this episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And she's now had the surgery, so it's looking good. But also want to make it clear on that episode that we weren't picking on Hannah Hampton. It was a story that led to a greater discussion, which is attitude versus talent, and that can be applied to so many players. So the story of Hannah Hampton brought out a bigger discussion.
And I hope that people who are listening understood that. I don't know if you're listening now. Hopefully you heard that, really. I think it's a little unfair, the amount of anger that's being directed at The Guardian and at the people who initially reported the story about Hannah Hampton having an attitude problem. And here's why. The blame, as we actually spoke about in the last episode, I think needs to fall on the shoulders of the club. That quote didn't appear out of nowhere, okay? The reporters who quoted the head coach saying that there was an attitude problem, they didn't make up that quote. I understand the anger around this 21-year-old, be it, in all the tabloids and the media's picking this up, and she doesn't deserve it, and I agree. And also, it's not just, this isn't The Sun or whatever tabloid making up a story. This was a reporting of an event, and somebody did say those words. So I guess just take that as you will. Let's go around the world. Over to Mexico. Leg 2 of the semifinals of La Liga MX Apertura are happening as we are recording this episode. So we don't have scorelines for you, but semifinals leg 1 saw number 4 America beating number 1 seed Guadalajara 3-1 and number 3 Tigres beating number 2 Monterrey 2-1. 2 upsets in leg 1, but we will see how leg 2 shakes out.
Over to the Emerald Isle in Ireland. The Irish League is now wrapped up for its season with a double win for Shelbourne United. They took both the title and the League Cup. This team drew worldwide attention as the team that Heather O'Reilly returned to, hoping for Champions League football, but they've proven that things can only get better for this team.
Over to Spain. El Clásico happened this Sunday. Barcelona handily took down Real Madrid in the much-anticipated matchup with a 4-0 victory. Barcelona said they would continue to invest more in the women's side, and results are seeming to follow. The loss for Real Madrid becomes their first of the season, while Barcelona still sits unbeaten at the top of the table and is the only unbeaten squad left in La Liga.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
So, love it or loathe it, we are coming up to international break.
Everybody loves it.
And there are so many games coming up in this week. It's going to be insane. So We've got England that take on Japan and Norway. Spain will also take on Japan. Australia and Sweden will face each other. The Netherlands will play Costa Rica and Denmark. Canada will take on Brazil twice. And then the US are going to take on Germany twice. They've also announced that they are going to be flying over to New Zealand in the new year to take on New Zealand before the World Cup that happens in that part of the world. And breathe. So, who are we excited for? What are we looking for? Who are we watching?
Well, the matchup that I'm most excited for actually is Canada versus Brazil.
Yes.
I'm really excited for this game for a lot of reasons. Number one, these two teams have played each other a lot, know each other very well, and match up against each other very well. Canada obviously coming off a gold medal victory and with a pretty established squad. Brazil, on the other hand, a young up-and-coming team, completely opposite styles of play. And I think it could be a goal fest. It's going to be an absolute blast. Nonetheless, I think that's my number one game to watch, I have to say.
I'm going to say, it's also, there is going to be a physicality there.
Absolutely.
Which I am excited
There
about.
always is when Canada plays.
I love it when games get physical. And Canada is probably one of the most physical teams out there.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to be interested to see how Brazil take that on, because Brazil are more of a connection type team. They are more, set pieces. They are a intrinsic thing, whereas Canada is very, and I'm so excited by it.
I couldn't agree more. I'm also very excited. I'm excited for Australia versus Sweden because Australia is such a question mark right now, and they have been for the past 2 years. And I think that this will give us a really good indication of where they are. And Sweden, coming off a pretty disappointing Euros, also will be very interesting to watch. And obviously, I'm pumped to see US take on Germany.
That is going to be exciting for me.
Tell me why.
I'm really excited for US versus Germany.
Yeah, what are you most excited for?
Because Germany had a phenomenal Euros, like an absolutely phenomenal Euros. And again, we're talking about a physical team. Germany are a physical team, but they're also really beautiful tactically in the way they play against each other. And I want to see how the US take that on.
It'll be a great test.
Because it is going to be, because they are a new team in a way, the US, in the way they're bonding and the way that they're working it out, and how they're going to tackle both that fact that they're new and also the fact that they are taking on Germany, who is basically 11 Georgia Stanways, and we saw how well that went against Iran. So I'm really excited to see how that US midfield is going to match up against people like Lena McGull, like, players like that, where they are just so physical and so quick, and it's going to be a beautiful game.
Okay, so we have to talk about the US because they're coming off, and not just because I want to talk about the US, but because this is a big topic right now in the world of women's soccer. They're coming off 2 losses, pretty unprecedented, losing to England and then losing to Spain by, it wasn't a close game either.
No.
They're coming off both of those losses. So how important are these games for the US?
I think it's as important as any friendly is. It's still that working out, cementing who's going to the World Cup, who's not, who do you bring, who do you not. If I was Vlatko, I'm going to hope that you play better. Actually
yeah. I think everybody's going to agree with that.
But even if you lose,
right,
I think it's important that you start seeing those partnerships gel. The defense is talking to your midfield, is talking to your strikers, because that's what your downfall was in these last 2 friendlies.
Yes.
Is no one was talking to each other. And I'm looking forward to some creativity from the US. So if you can get that out, if you can get some creativity that's not just pinging the ball to Sophia Smith, if you can get some communication going with your number 6 and your defenders and your thing, then this is going to be a successful friendly for the US, regardless of result.
I agree that how they play is much more important than getting a win. Now, if the US play really well and still lose, there will be some people who sound the alarm bells because they'll look at the score lines and say, oh my God, we've dropped 3, maybe even 4 in a row. But I agree with you that that's actually not what this is about. If we can see a development from the US, a change from the last 2 games to this game, some kind of cohesion on the field, and what I want is a distinct style of play. That's what I'm looking for. I want to see cohesion, and I want to see a distinct style of play starting to emerge. And if we see that, then I think that we know that the US is on the right track.
Yep. So that is absolutely key, I think, for them. But moving on to the most important tournament, forget the World Cup.
Yeah.
Forget the Euros.
Yeah.
This is the most important tournament. The Arnold Clark tournament is back, ladies and gentlemen, and all of us in between.
Yes, it is.
The teams have been announced. It's England, Japan, Belgium, and Italy. What do you think about that?
Well, it's obviously not last year, really, as well. Was my first thought. Last year's competition was out of this world, and that's not to disparage like Italy or Belgium or anything like that. Japan is obviously an incredibly competitive team in the women's soccer world, but it's not last year, and so that was my first thought, which led to my second thought of maybe that means there'll be some more competitive teams to come on over for She Believes, which could be great. Because we had some pretty lopsided. Arnold Clark last year was so competitive, and then She Believes was really not. So it'd be nice to balance that out a little bit.
Justice for Iceland, they were competitive.
Yeah. Ish. Ish.
No, the only thing, and it's probably not feasible because of the time of year, because it's February, but I wish there was more non-European teams playing in the Arnold Cup, because we've played a lot of European teams recently.
You know, I would love to see like one European team come on over for the US for She Believes, and then like Mexico, and then maybe like Brazil or Canada. That's what I would like to see in She Believes.
And yeah, and I would like something similar for England. It would be nice to have Australia come over. It would be nice to have, you know, some just different teams. But I think it might be the time of year. But it's still going to be interesting. It's always good to see the Lionesses get a run out. So
yeah, well, you know, speaking of Australia, I'm surprised more people like the US haven't announced that they're trying to go play a friendly over there. Frankly, I heard that, and first of all, that's just gonna be such great training that you can't replicate. For the US going to New Zealand for those friendlies, you can't replicate that flight. You can't replicate the wear and tear on your body, and that's just going to be such an advantage.
And the climate and the culture.
Frankly, that is what investment gets you. The funds to be able to go do that kind of thing, which will put you in a better place for the World Cup. All right, so with that being said, we actually haven't done anything on World Cup draws, so maybe we'll throw that in either to our Patreon or next episode. That could be fun, Allie. But head on over to our Patreon, because if you're excited for the friendlies, we've done full squad announcement breakdowns on our Patreon. We talk to US, talk to Lionesses, so head on over there. And for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, that's it for this week. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.